Before I go live, okay, before I go live here, I got a music. This is my copyright number here. Cause I have a music copy and license here. So I'm gonna have to do it. There's this one I'm gonna play here. I opened a video called Northern Cree Singers. And because this is SOCAM copyright number here, and this song I'm playing is a copyright music, but under law, I have to under law copyright. I have to let you know that ahead of time. This way, YouTube itself knows that I have permission to play the song. Remember, please don't copy this. This is copyright, you know, song. Yes, it is. Well, I'm going to play it now. Just gotta wait. Yep. I have it here. Gotta find it again. I had it lined up, but it wasn't lined up. I didn't get on here fast enough here for looking for it. Yeah. I'm gonna do it shortly. I gotta find it. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. That is an opening to this video. This is I'm gonna. Okay, that was an opening to this, but I hope you enjoyed the opening there. A little bit of because today's June 21st, National Aboriginal Day. That means one or two things gonna happen here. No, that is. Anyways, one or two things will happen. Know what that is? Do you want to really know? Number one, we got to remember all the bad things that happened beside the good stuff. You know something? The bad things were back many years back, First Nation people weren't even allowed to vote in provincial or federal elections. Indian Act prevented them from doing so. Number two, it blew not in Six Nations. It was against the law within when the day when telephone invented by Alexander Graham Bell, my great uncle, who caused Nick Baker, who funded this, gave Bell the loan to do Alexander Graham Bell the loan to do it at that time. One of my great uncles. Anyway, so apparently there was a rule set up in there. He actually stepped my who made that for telephone thing within the British colony at this time, with British Empire at this time. But unfortunately for another one too is this. Now, actually, Mr. Graham Bell at the time, while invented the phone, he turned around. He said that, I wanted, and he said this too. Well, at that time when the phone was invented, Hugh Cotton Baker Sr., and Junior, they decided we're going to do a phone exchange on Six Nations at this time. But the Indian Act said, no, you can't have telephone conversation. That's the Indian Act would be that. But, what happened was, they came up the reserve, picked up this building, an old general store on the corner of on Fifth Line and I think it's Fifth Line and Seneca Road there in the res. It's a vacant building. It pretty well been rotten, deteriorated years. And apparently, here's what happened. Well, here's a good story about it. I want to know what happened there with this. They set up a switchboard in there, and they didn't, and they had it connected up in the reserve to every phone. The one thing is, you got to watch that one thing they had to watch for the Indian agent at the time. Of course, Indian agents will, if they had a phone in a house, well, they will be kicked off reserve after the white people. They didn't want that happening. And then the reserve, it was a penal colony basically, more like a penal colony back in those days. So, because the color of their skin tanned. Well, as the story goes on here, in this review I'm telling about, it's become powwow dancing was outlawed, ghost dancer, everything outlawed. You can't do that. If you're caught doing it, you get punished, or or they will strip you of a status, make you a white man or want it or not, put in the white man world. And unfortunately, now this went on for many years into the 1960s. But what happened later on, powwow dancing was re-allowed again, of course. And at that time, Six Nations and they had a phone exchange, but it did very well. Because before the phone exchange was brought in there, they were going into Caledonia, lined up a payphone booth, every phone booth. Native people lined up. You put in a diamond to make phone calls everywhere. Get it? So they were lined up, and it was, to the point where the non-native person couldn't even make a phone call from a payphone. That was going back to time Bell was in the Bell put phone in Caledonia, but will not put a phone on reserve. Hugh Cossack Baker did that. But what happened to Hugh Cossack Baker Sr. was this. Hugh Cossack Baker Sr., he passed away old age. His son Junior took it over. Then when the Indian Act was sort of tamed down over the years, they allowed phones on reserve. Then Bell Tal came in, bought out the old phone exchange with a switchboard we put plugs into, big old jack plugs you plug into. And what happened there, they did that, and afterwards, it became obsolete at that point. That became obsolete, at that point. Well, about maybe 15 years back, I was in Six Nations Reserve, and I was going somewhere, heading toward the Grand Council, and it started to pour down rain, so I had to stop somewhere quick. And there's a big old abandoned building on the corner there on Fifth Line and I think it's Tucker Road or Seneca Road, 59 and the Seneca Road there. So I really just zip into that old building there. I zipped and took shelter from the rain in that old building. And that's why I found the old phone exchange, because it still had the old switchboard in it with plugs. The lines outside were long cut off by the phone company about Bell years ago. And I'd seen I saw the log books. I found the log books for the phone company. I found all log books in there. While rain was pouring down outside, I was sitting inside the place, going over reading log books at the time. And lo and behold, these were written by Hugh Cossack Baker and Hugh Cossack Baker Jr. were writing up. Senior and Junior had logs in the book, and then the last log was done in about the last log in that book was done in 1960. That was Cossack Baker Jr., who was 78 years old, wrote a log saying, that I sold the Saints over to Bell Telephone, that we don't need to operate this manual exchange anymore, and we will be terminating operations exactly 12 a.m. tonight. 12 a.m. tomorrow morning, service will be discontinued. This exchange taken over by Bell. So the last phone call that went through that exchange was made at 11:55, and it was went through and it ended at 11:05 at the end, according to record books. The and 11:05 when 11:55 they ended at about 12:05, and it showed that on the record that the call was, and it showed on the record that when I'm looking at it, the call was completed at that point. Transfer to Bell have commenced with file transfer to Bell have completed, and the phone call was that I had on there were picked up by Bell and relayed to Bell Canada. Wow, yeah, it was done by John Dockstetter, what they call replaced by Joe Dockstetter, Mr. Dockstetter, posted a call, Yeah, so that was pretty good. Huh. Yeah, the call was that was pretty good. Well, yeah, interesting log. It was the last one in the log. And that my great uncle, I didn't even know my great uncle, who Calderwood Jr., ran an underground phone exchange and ran when it was forbidden to do so. He actually was breaking the law and he didn't get caught. Amazing to think that somebody in my family did this not knowing and knew he was breaking the law, but no, put up with it. Thinking about it, putting up with what happened there. Wow, my day is one thing, but this is a very amazing piece of history there that happened in Six Nations. Well, anyway, the place was in Iraq. I was reading in the rain, and finally the storm passed over, and it had stopped. And so I left there, and I continued. I had the logbook. I left them sitting there where they were. I didn't take them. They sat there. No, I did. Well, I continued down, made it to Almadega Longhouse for Grand Council meeting that day at Six Nations Legislative Chief meeting. I made it in there. I was standing there walked in, and I made it in and sat down, listened to all the chiefs saying everything, and it was pretty great. All that. And then, well, after the meeting, after Grand Council meeting done, stuff like that, it's like everybody say me grits and all that, and they dismiss at that point. And the Grand Council meeting with the Sampan powwow to and they recontract the same person help set it up. I did last year with me, of course. So I said, yeah, let's give it a little bit. Afterwards, you know what happened then? And then I turned around and left the Grand Council on a dig or longhouse there. Of course, a beautiful, big, huge log cabin. You know, I left and I went to nowhere. I walked over next door to had a dining room. I went into there, sat down to have scone, corn soup, and really nice lunch. Actually had some, oh, they had they're serving bear meat that day. That was pretty interesting. I ate some bear meat, and then and then after that, I turned around and there was somebody else there I knew. You think it was Donna Palace, I knew for a while, but still around the old church is very day. Got in the car and gave me a ride home to Hamilton. Thank goodness for that. So, anyways, that was very great. He did. Yeah. So I went on. No happened was. from there, I went back to Hamilton, and then following week came the Grand River powwow, but also to talk about the Indigenous Elder Summit that they're going to have down at the Seafood Park next town for me that I remember too. The Elder Indigenous Summit, and lo and behold, and I did attend that Indigenous Summit there, and it was quite a thing. And I was asked to do a lot of things there, which I did. And it was very interesting. It was something I'd never done before. They were writing up a new treaty for Six Nations, and I was a part of writing that treaty. I can't believe I did it, but I did. My God, I can't believe I put a lot of my wisdom into this new treaty, and it involving the Métis, and I'm very way that the Métis are part of the Iroquois Confederacy. Basically, they're considered that under the new treaty. We wrote new treaty was and that we wrote all down, and in that one thing within that treaty, one thing I have two things that were in the old treaty that elders put in hundreds of years ago said all long as the green grass grow and the water flow and it rain to heaven, the trees are remaining in effect for eternity. And in this revised edition of a treaty, I said, all historical treaty rights have to be protected in the past, present, and future, and not to be diverted or in a way, shape, or form. That means the J3 border crossing have to be respected. Well, who comes along? Donald Trump said, no, we don't listen to you, and let's do things our way. Let's get ICE involved. They get ICE involved. ICE comes, takes the clan mother took a hereditary seat out of this, that attending come down to I think onto the Tonawanda, the Indian reservation in Tonawanda, New York, known as the Tonawanda First Nations. No, that what happened was they went in there, and you know what happened? They turned around, walked in, and what did they do? They grabbed the hereditary chief, picked him up, and an elder, I think it was, near the elder too. Both men were brought to, locked away in jail, and told them to, either you get a Canadian passport, a birth certificate, or you don't cross the border. And they had a Haudenosaunee passport, which means that they can cross the border without all that. But they were told they were in the country legally when they weren't. And this is what the ICE said. And the Native people movement said this one. And the American Native movement turned around and said, look, that's the treaty you have to be honored. You guys disobeying the treaty. And many other hereditary chiefs and elected chiefs of the nation came on ICE so hard they said, look, told ICE to shut their ass, and ordered and turned around and had to get demanded them to release the clan mother, release the hereditary chief from this stronghold. Well, they refused to release them, and instead they turned around, and when ICE turned around, what ICE did, we're going to come across the border and try to go after the Grand Council, which I tried to do that. And the ICE, but unfortunately, the ICE, which was, they called the Mountie, and the Mountie told ICE, and ordered them back to the United States, basically, told them to walk away. And then they went to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump wouldn't do it, but it went through BIA. BIA went and approached the ICE and said, know what? You got Native people in your custody. You got a hereditary chief and Six Nation Indian Reserve down there. You got a clan mother from the Six Nation Indian Red Roll clan. What are you gonna do? Well, the immigrants illegally in the country, and that's what happened. What the BIA said that no excuse whatsoever to do that. You broke treaty rights of the Iroquois Confederacy. You broke this. You violated rights, and you're going to reason, or we have to, or we'll call in. We'll bring the U.S. military to do it for you. We'll bring in the. We'll send in the military to do it for you. What is the choice? All right, they still refused to release it. While the military came in, grabbed the ice and pinned him down hard and fast, of course, and opened the door, released the chief and the clan mother from two separate, and they got them into the mill, and what did they do? Well, they took them back to the Indian reservation, let them go. God, they got caught, and they took off across Canada. Well, ice turned around, and I got a very big black mark by Donald Trump, said the ice. You got no business harassing Native people, the forefathers of the land. No business whatsoever. And then again, it was. And that one thing that still, they put the J Treaty on hold. The J Treaty goes on. J Treaty parade goes on across the border on a regular basis. Yes. It's quite the parade on 1 week prior to Grand River Powell. But here's the scoop on it now. That the J Treaty parade itself is a parade that goes across the U.S. border. But here's the story on it. Okay, the story is now that, I'm not going to cross over the border because of this Donald Trump anti-Indian type thing he's running. I don't want to get involved because I'm afraid that ICE, that terrifies me about ICE in a way, that they have more power than the federal government have in the United States. And that is not that unjustified power. They love to pull people and getting on that. Yeah, they supposed to get undesirable Aryan people out of the country, but what about people visiting the U.S.? It interfered with them too. They were their mother and daughter who got green card status finally through a U.S. consulate down in Ottawa. In Ottawa, they had the U.S. embassy here. They got the green cards through the U.S. embassy. Once you got the green card, they crossed over Alberta, Canada, and they were heading down to LA, and they were moving down to Los Angeles, out of Vancouver. So while they're on the highway, roaring along the highway, heading down toward LA, they get pulled over by ICE. ICE turned around, took the mother and daughter, arrested them, held them in prison. The daughter, and terrified this daughter, and turned around, terrified this 4-year-old, 2-year-old daughter, 3-year-old, were terrorized by it. They really told her that things that were not even true. They were both wannabe Indian, both this, both that. And they were just being a parent mom or disputing matter. And I turned around, slipped them down, slammed her down on the bench in the cell with no running water and said, "Shut your mouth. We don't want to hear you, trash Canadian. You filthy Canadian." Call her filthy Canadian. And I said, "I have a green card. I've been legally got." And I said, "Now you're asking me about being this and that?" And I, "No, sir, you do. Look at my freaking passport." I said, "Oh, that? Whoa, somebody, this is a fake sticker you can buy anywhere." While you check with the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa, it's real. it's a genuine green card, and that means I'm legally doing legal immigration, not illegal immigration. And I turned around and said, well, sir, we will. Well, finally, apparently, the story went on here a bit more of ICE and this immigration problem that the ICE created, the fictional care. Well, apparently, they were looking at this. The people, the real estate agents sitting in California waiting for them to arrive in Los Angeles, sign paperwork they didn't even show. The real estate agent phoned the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa and said, look, where are the people? And they left 4 days ago. Where are they? And they looked at it and still didn't enter the United States, and could you check with ICE? Hell, you and Embassy judge. And I said, well, we have another detention in San Francisco being legal immigrant, take green card. And the consul told them right off that, know what? Release them immediately. Now, these green cards are legitimate, not fakes. And they were right after that lease, and it got made to LA 7 days late. The real estate agent, quickly signed the paper, and they moved in to a nice, apartment in Los Angeles. So this was very They moved in a nice house in LA in a nice area, HOA, of course. And they were pretty good. They moved in after fine, and everyone was fine from that point forward. Well, what did they do? They sued ICE for $500,000 in revenue for all the days work that person missed for almost 2 weeks of work, 2 weeks in custody for nothing. They sued ICE for wrongful imprisonment and wrongful arrest. Guess what? ICE turned around and they turned around again and said, we can't pay you, we don't have the money. Well, they upped the lawsuit higher. And they turned around. This time they filed an injunction against the ICE, the U.S. ICE thing. They can't do this anymore, anybody, a legitimate green card. Well, apparently they won the case, got paid finally by your government, turn around and move that division ICE out of the state to another state. Actually, they actually fired a whole lot of people in the business and hired new people in there that obeyed the laws of the U.S. and not doing what the other one do. When they did that, you know what happened later? Later on, it was pretty good. Now, you look at treaties in the First Nations, and you look at and then when I sat down, one thing I put all the past, present, future. Why they say I had this feeling that something like that will happen in the future, which it did. But here, Donald Trump got a salt in the ear on Six Nations when he did the elder. Donald Trump got and you government got big salt in the ear. Actually, United States alone, I read it right, there were tens of complaints. Well, the music I just played at the beginning of the video is copyright. And so I had to show the copyright license, and I'll show my member from this. Remember, this is SOCAM. This SOCAM. You know what SOCAM is? I'll show you SOCAM up here. I'll get up from my camera. See this? This goes, see, SOCAM. Yep, SOCAM. And I have a member's number here. And I'm going to read it over to you again for or this is also, I have written permission from the artist here to do so. So, I've done that today only because I have original day. Anyway, then remember my SOCAM music copy and license number is 1153257. Yes, this is my license number right there. Do you see that? Yeah, do you see the number? Yes. That is the music copying license member number. Remember that. It's a number so you know what I'm talking about. That is a membership number. It is my music copying license number. So if you allow me to play copyright music on YouTube, but I have to let people, before I do, I have to show a copyright license number. This identifies me with YouTube. And YouTube doing this, I ask that do not, do not, no, ask and do not, this did not, do not flag me red flag on the copyright in this. I do have a number and I've shown it to you right here. So, thank you for listening and have a wonderful and productive day. And today is June 21st, National Aboriginal Day. Happy Aboriginal Day to everybody. Yes. Yep, happy Aboriginal Day. Yes, sir. It's now here. My end of the story will come here now. Thank you. Have a wonderful, productive day.